Hi, I'm Liud, and I'll be presenting on the state of the X.Org Foundation. So first, I want to give a special thanks to Collabora and the John Molson School of Business for hosting this conference. And I also wanted to give a special thanks to all the organizers who made this year's XDC possible. As well, someone who decided to step down from the board brought a lot of good ideas regarding management that we're already implementing. And I just wanted to say thank you for a decade of service and helping this organization move forward. And we look forward to seeing them continue to be present in the community. So on sponsors, we got about 13 sponsors this year. 13 is actually a new record for how many sponsors we've ever gotten. We filled 2 different travel grants. Thank you to Arcadeus for the invoicing, and also thank you, SEMA, for the sponsor hunting. So in total, we had 33 talks this year, 6 full slot talks, 16 half slot talks, and 11 lightning talks. I'd like to give a big thanks to Mark and the rest of the papers committee. And yeah, so the SFC transition. We mentioned that previously we've been working on transitioning from SPI to SFC. Transition's almost complete at this point. We have about half of the funds transferred, and we wanted to give a big thanks to SFC for helping out and offering their resources to continue keeping X.Org sustainable. And thank you, Pono, for participating in the board meetings. It's been really good to have someone actually involved, in helping things run and helping them run smoothly. So outreach update. So we'll probably be we'll be sunsetting EVOC after some organizational issues that we're currently looking into. And through SFC, we'll be focusing mostly on Outreachy and Google Summer of Code. Again, thank you, SFC, for actually helping to make that possible and keeping that sustainable. So updates on hosting. I want to thank Equinox for continuing to sponsor us. They sponsored quite a lot, as you can see, over $11,000 for GitLab and over $10,000 for shared runners. And of course, we always welcome more runners and GitLab servers. Just check with Daniel Stone. So some of the recent changes with GitLab, new repositories have been added, of course. Most of the DRM trees have actually been added into GitLab and the Linux media tree. Thank you for bringing your own runners. That very much made things a lot easier for us. And the file hierarchy standard is now also moving to the free desktop GitLab. We are now in a new data center. GitLab and runners are in the same data center in order to reduce, that's supposed to say latency. But yeah, this did unfortunately lose a couple of days of availability for pushing to Git repositories, but that should be fixed now. We also upgraded to GitLab version 17. The database upgrade went all right. The attempted database split did not go great. But it involved a little more downtime than expected, but it was still within the announced window that we gave. So we're getting better at this. So regarding spam, because we mentioned in the past we had a big issue of spam accounts, mostly Peter and Carol have been handling this. We originally had around over like 500,000 spam users, but we're now down to only 50,000, which is a pretty big improvement. Most of the spam accounts are getting deleted after 30 days, and we're also doing a weekly analysis of domain signups. As a note too, if you see a comment or an issue that is marked as spam, you can add the spam label or the helpful don't litter emoji, and if the project supports it, it will actually get marked as spam automatically and removed. So CGIT, it was down for a couple of weeks in September, but we didn't actually get a whole ton of complaints from regarding it. But it's currently on health support at the moment. J. Ray Hawk was responsible for bringing this back up. So big thanks to them. The future's kind of unclear in this. It's probably going to be going away because it's not heavily used, and a lot of the things that it is really fulfilling the needs of can be handled pretty well by GitLab. So, free desktop code of conduct transparency report. Excluding spam bots, we had about 11 reports total this year. About 7 of those reports did not result in bans, 3 of them did, and we currently have 1 report pending. And next year's XDC will be in Vienna, Austria. A huge thanks to Snap. And as well, we actually have an RFP lined up for 2025, or sorry, for 2026. So huge thanks to Snap. And yeah, see you in Austria next year. And that's pretty much it.
So we had the Universal Buffer Allocator for Linux workshop. That was this morning. I finished a presentation about that the previous day, asking what's next. Do we have any volunteer? Well, we had people showing up, so that's partly yes, at least. We had some discussions. I won't say we rehashed a discussion that happened in XDC 2016 and 2020, but we started from there. They discussed constraint resolution a lot, about how to get producers and consumers to agree, not just on formats and modifiers, but also on the constraints related to how to allocate buffers, where to place them in memory, and all that kind of things. We also covered a topic that was a bit new, where actually the proposal that James Simon worked on stopped. It's how do we handle the backend allocators. So we covered DMA heaps, which is something that's a bit more recent compared to previous discussions. And we have a few conclusions. So there is an interest. We need some kind of library. There was a few ideas being floated around. One was to start with an existing library and trying to expand from that, like GBM, for instance, or to try something new. No clear conclusion on that. We need some API. And, well, we do need someone to bootstrap this, but the most important conclusion is that we agree that we need to go for an iterative approach. The problem space is fairly big. The different parts are not necessarily extremely complex, but it's too scary for someone to just take that and bring it to completion. A couple of action points, mostly when it comes to the backend allocators and DMA heaps. It's to implement memory accounting in the DMA heaps as something that we don't have today. So that's one of the reasons that distributions do not allow access to DMA heaps at the moment. That's a big blocker. Everybody in the room thought that it shouldn't be very difficult, technically speaking, which was a bit scary because we were wondering why it hasn't been done yet in that case. So hopefully we haven't missed anything. And then once we have that, it means that we'll have access to DMA heaps in Linux distributions, and we can try to start pushing drivers to implement their own heaps when they have specific allocation requirements. Meeting notes, the raw meeting zone notes, I've posted them to the DRL Devil mailing list and Linux Media and cross-posted to another one. Hopefully the slides will be published and you can grab the link. But otherwise, go to the archive of the DRL Devil mailing list on law.kernel.org and you will find the raw meeting notes. They're a bit rough because they were raw. And that's it.
Hello, everybody. So first of all, thanks all for joining XDC and also being part of the workshop. We had a lot of great discussions today, very busy. I tried to summarize some of the discussion. We're gonna upload it in the website so you guys can check it later with more details. But I guess we can start with the first discussion that we have, which was the one proposed by, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry. So yeah, some of the topics that we have, we discussed about how to share drivers between v4L2 and KMS for bridges-like components. Then we have discussions about real-time scheduling, debugging, things like that. Now, next, display mux, HDR color management, and finally, the commit failure feedback. So the first one was how to share drivers between v4L2 and the KMS for bridget-like component. And the problem is we have some hardware device represented by a device tree node, for example, that are used in some case in a camera capture pipeline and in another case in the display pipeline, for example, scalars. And the question is, how can we have a single driver for that in the kernel that can be used for v4L2 and the DRM? We had many discussions, like a couple of ideas came from the conversation. idea number one. We can have two different compatible strings depending on if the device is using in the camera or if the display pipeline in the display pipeline. The problem of this approach came from the fact that this is some sort of a layer violation at the device tree level, and maybe maintainers might not be willing to accept that, but looks like we have a case for that in the past. Option number two is we can have a single driver where we can expose the device to two different abstractions, DRM bridge for the DRM and other one for V4L2 subdev for video for Linux. It is simple, but requires two different abstractions on top of the same device. And idea number three, we still have a single driver, but we created a new abstraction in the kernel that unifies the DRM bridge and the V4L2 subdev. The downside of this is we have a lot of work to get this design accepted, and we also have to migrate from other hardwares, which can be a challenge. So, but this solution looks like possibly a good one. The guy, if you want to discuss more about it, please follow up with Lawrence Pinchard. So, yeah, next one. The next one that we had the discussion, it was about real-time scheduler. Basically, the problem that we have is some of the non-blocking page flips can, in a rare occasion, take a long time, and for that reason, get a CQ if the thread's doing the atomic commit in a real-time scheduler. Here we had like some sort of brainstorm how we're gonna maybe start to explore this problem a little bit more. One of the actions that maybe we can try is explore some way to get backtrace alternative. Some folks suggest maybe let's leverage a little bit more of ftrace during the BizWay to see if we can get more information. Another idea was we can explore the max amount that the thread can be in a BizWay to maybe see, like if we can control the timeout, maybe we can use a lower timeout and make it easy to reproduce some of the issues that they have with real-time scheduler. We can use it on Mutter. We can play with things like RT-Kit. If you need some help to set up RT-Kit and things like that, maybe you should follow up with Mike Condezo. And finally, for more discussion about it, talk with Jonas. Sorry, Jonas, yeah. Sorry. All right, next we have display mugs. We had a long discussion here how we're going to approach this, and we came up with some conclusions and ideas. So first thing, we want to explore more the idea of sharing DP aux and its implication. We also have some issues on how we're going to handle backlight in this scenario, so we probably can explore some of the available specs somewhere. We also have some brainstorm where we're discussing having compositor arm the mux switch via sysfs, send a mode set to the outgoing driver, then a mode set to the incoming driver. Sounds a potential solution. We also had an overall agreement that disable HPD can be part of the planned sequence for the initial panel. And finally, we had some questions, discussion about cross-sync, and we raised some questions such as the compositor is the DRM master for the entire mux switch sequence. So how can we guarantee that? Like, it's still an open question. We also need to make sure the design does not assume presence of a mux, because in the future we might have directly sharing over DP. So for more information and discuss, please follow up with Daniel Dedap.
So as usual, we'll talk about color management again. So we can say that after the meeting, we kind of agreed that we are ready to merge or at least organize ourselves to get the kernel API for color management merged in the kernel because it's not, of course, because we just decided it, but because we have covered all the needs, the basic needs to get it merged in the kernel. First thing is that we have already the AMD implementation. But also, Harry also worked on attaching this proposal to the Intel implementation too. NVIDIA is already working on sharing their implementation according to Harry's proposal for the KMS color management API. And yeah, Qualcomm needs more time to get it into it, but they kind of say that the current proposals seems okay. On the user space side, we already have experimental implementation from Queen that was shared by Xava already on the mailing list, and kind of validated that the proposal it's enough for what their needs. And GameScope has a draft that was Simon, the first one that shared, but and we are already using the driver-specific implementation on MD driver. So the next step is to move the driver-specific API to the KMS generic one. And we have some feedback from Weston, Mutter, and others that they are already exploring the proposal. And hopefully we will have something by the end of this year, but we kind of have feedback from the kernel side, GPU vendors, and the user space. But also, apart from that, we also have IGT tests that Harry also implemented. So we kind of covered all the aspect for this API. And yeah, so we are waiting for review advice and ACK advice on the last version of the proposal, and yeah, more feedback. And if you want to talk more about it or more information, first person is Eric, but also Xava, I, and many other, compositor and display driver developers are available for that. And yeah, the last part was kind of, just to, it's something that I forgot to mention, that we have more than 3 hours of a meeting. So that's why we have a lot of topics. But the last one was, I can say that was a mix of complaints and a brainstorm to brainstorming alternatives to get more information from kernel drivers of what is going on when we face a failure, a commit failure. So I think basically it was that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. And thank everybody that joined us in this meeting.
Wayland has no slides because we do not know how to do display. That's all, thank you. Also, we were scheduled last, and it's only just happened, but that's fine because Wayland is agile, and we believe in rapid delivery. So we covered a lot of ground. The first and possibly longest and least surprising part was going through the governance changes that have been discussed recently and almost entirely approved. Those were focused around creating a little bit more mechanism to enable and also encourage people to be able to better find compromises between wildly different worldviews and to be able to get things out there and make sure things don't tar pit. So if you're interested in those, Mike's written quite a bit about those on his blog, supergoodcode.com, and the merge requests are also all in the Wayland protocols repo. They're all tagged governance, and all of those have a lot of context going through things like the motivations and why we're putting them forward and what effect we hope they'll have. So yeah, there was a lot of consensus that it would be really good for us to enable people to get things out there more quickly. We demonstrated this by landing the FIFO and commit timing protocols, which some would say ironically are very, very late. And so one big user of those is Mesa, so we can stop blocking on for EGL and Vulkan clients and give clients a bit more of a nice, smooth, consistent cadence. And we've got a bunch of implementations there, but also aiming at media. So that was a great turnout. And then we had a bunch of sidebars of issues that came up. So a big one was testing, where, you know, instead of one X.Org server that we all know and love or something, we've got like 1,000 compositors that we don't even know all of them, and some of them are loved, I suppose. Western is the good one, for the record. The reference. And so, yeah, there was a lot of discussion about how we build out some infrastructure to, you know, it's everything from conformance test suites to make sure that compositors are doing the right thing and obeying the protocol, and how we can build a common Wayland CTS. The answer to that is the usual. We need to probably talk a little bit less about testing and do more testing. You know, there's a couple of Wayland CTS projects which are really in need of people to pick them up and push them forward. So hopefully some good comes out of that. There's quite a long sidebar about security and some of the misconceptions people have there. You know, in that when Wayland protocols are very narrowly designed, that's usually because they're targeted at specific use cases, because it gives us more latitude to be able to do things in future and not box ourselves in, rather than because we hate freedom and we have really weird views about security. So we had a sidebar about that, but there is a security context protocol that Simon Sir worked on, which was merged a month or two ago. So if you're interested in anything that requires dealing with the security properties of external clients, security context is a great place to start. And then another one, which has been a huge issue for quite a long time, is accessibility. Both accessibility and complex text input falling under the umbrella of making Wayland-based systems more accessible to people who aren't able-bodied and working in Latin scripts. There have been a bunch of cuts at trying to do that, but nothing super systemic. So that one was more about trying to see if we can build up a body of people who are interested in and knowledgeable about accessibility with projects like Newton, and also people who are interested in and knowledgeable about text input. There's a little bit of momentum there, but it really does need people to get involved. So if that's a thing you're interested in, and then please go on, jump in. Little bit of discussion about some multi-GPU optimizations. To be honest, that was pretty niche. If you're interested in the DMA buff protocol, then there is, I think, maybe an MR. Yeah, there is an MR about that Xavier did. Am I missing anything?
Popcorn.
Sorry?
Popcorn.
Oh, yeah. And Connor and Mark brought popcorn, but they brought it about 5 minutes before it did sort of descend into shouting. Or 5 minutes after, was it?
We tried.
Yeah, you did your best, but it was nice. I know it was big, so thank you very much. And Yeah, there we are. Thank you.
All right, we made it. Welcome to the closing session of XDC 2024. I'll be really quick because I know we all have a big week and we're all very tired, so time to go rest. First and foremost, we had a really exciting week this week. I call it a successful pre-desktop week, especially it was the first time that we had a brand new schedule, 2 days of talks, 1 day of workshops, and we were co-located with the GStreamer conference, which saw really, really solid attendance. At one point on Wednesday, we had almost 200 people roaming the rooms. So that was really, really impressive. GStreamer told me that was their best Hackfest to date, so I'm super proud of that. I thought it was really exciting to see. I don't know what 2025 will hold, but I would love to get your feedback, and the board as well. We'd like to know, what did you think? Does this schedule work? Should we maintain it next year, 2+1? Should we just go back to 3 days of talks and then mix and match the workshops like we used to do? But yeah, send us your comments. We'd love to know what you think. I'm planning to send an email to at member list to get some feedback as well, because I want to make sure that everyone likes this new format, or if they prefer going back to the old one, we'll totally go back to the old one. That's what open collaboration and discussion is for. All that being said, XDC would not have been possible without our sponsors, so I really want to take a few minutes just to thank each and every one of them. First and foremost, our bronze sponsors, Codeweavers, Kronos, and LibComputer, who gave us a really awesome attendee gift this year. So big round of applause for our bronze sponsors. Our silver sponsors, AMD, FEXMU, Igalia, Qualcomm, and the Linux Foundation. Thank you very, very much. Our 4 gold sponsors, ARM, Google, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. We're super happy to see you here this year, so thank you very, very much. And platinum sponsor, Collabora. Thank you again for allowing me to organize and spend quite a bit of time organizing this week's events. So big thanks to Collabora as well. And as a final note, like Liut said, we'll see you in Vienna next year. Save the date. We actually have the date a whole year ahead of time this time. So book it so you have it. So thanks again, everyone, for attending next week, and we'll see you next year. I'll leave it up so you can take pictures.